Hey guys, and welcome back to the Blaze TV podcast with me, Ed Kimberley, and Stu Coles, as always, as your hosts. And our guest on this episode, Blaze assistant coach Dale Keene. And Keeno, I know we occasionally catch you after games when Danny's busy with Andy and Mike or whatever else is going on. But it's really great that we've got some of your time here because you do so much behind the scenes, and I think it's going to be kind of fun to give a little bit more of an insight into Danny's right-hand man. How are you doing? How's your summer been so far?
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always nice to catch up. It was nice to catch up with Stu at the Booster Club event at the Sky Blue Tavern the other week there. It was good to see some fans again. Summer's been busy. Yeah, like people on the night with the Booster Club are joking, how's your holidays been, whatever. It's like, what holidays? There is no time to take off, especially with the mindset that that Stewie has and that I have, is that we have to graft as hard in the summer as we do in the winter during the season, and it's all about trying to put together the best, most competitive team we can. And then, there's loads of other things on top of that. We're going to view houses. We're sitting on Rightmove a lot of the time. We're trying to, talk to businesses around the town, try to just do everything we can, to help the organisation. As with all the off-ice staff, Megan, Sally, Rob, Craig, Andy, Mike, Ethan, everybody's busy.
I didn't know. I think everybody would probably assume that you had something like Elite Prospects up as an app that you regularly hit, but maybe taking Rightmove or Zoopla for granted. But hey, listen, before we go in to talk about, I guess, building the squad for the upcoming season, because I think everybody's keen to hear about that. You've been with us a little while now, and I think I might have known some of the stuff about your history and then forgotten about it. So would you be right to just refresh us, bud? Because if I remember right, you got into coaching in Kilmarnock, just down the road from where you're from. You were playing a little SNL at the time as well. How did the transition from playing into coaching occur, and what drove that?
Oh, I started coaching when I was just helping out when I was about 15. And that was when I played at North Ayr, so it was the North Ayrshire club. Partly the reason was that my house was actually in the same street as the rink, so I was a complete rink rat. I wanted to help out with everybody. I wanted to just be on the ice. So every day I was on the ice, and whether it being for my own team and the playing up to the under-19s or whatever, it was being on the ice with the 10s, the 12s, and the 14s as well. Just being on the ice and just being in that environment, and it started there, and then I started with Best of British, the ice hockey camps, which is actually where I met Stewie. A few years later after I started, Stewie joined us, but it was there. Eric Young, who was actually a PE teacher of mine, he was one of the coaches in the North Ayr club. Had asked me to, would that be something I was interested in, and we had a chat with Paul Heavey, and he was like, yeah, absolutely, come down, give us a hand. And that was 15 years ago now. Wow. They're actually just about to celebrate their 20th year running, which is an amazing accomplishment. Jamie and Paul have done a fantastic job to keep a business which has had threats, like new business coming in all the time, and so for them to last so long is pretty amazing. But it pretty much started there, and then I ended up with an under-12s team in Paisley, and it was after Paisley shut down, and they moved the juniors to Braehead, and this was before the Clan.
Yeah.
and I had an under-12s team when I was like 16, 17. Obviously, I wasn't old enough to be qualified, but because I had the experience and the passion, they stuck an older guy with me, and they let me do what I needed to do. And actually, it's funny that the goalie of the team, his mum was the chairwoman at the time. The goalie's now a linesman in the elite league.
Oh, who's that?
Lewis Dolan.
Oh no.
He's one of the Scottish officials.
Yeah.
You only ever see him when we're up there, so that's quite funny. It's quite surreal. I obviously I was playing at North Fair, and the Scotland team had actually went into the SNL for a year. So I had the chance to play with that team, and I think I ended up playing nearly 60 games that year. And the head coach of the Scotland team was a guy called Stuart Wilson, who to this day is still one of my biggest mentors and one of my best friends. He took me across to Kilmarnock, and I played there, and I eventually took over the reins from him. I had the 16s at Kilmarnock, I had the 18s at Kilmarnock, I had the 20s at Kilmarnock, and then I had the SNL. I was a player coach at 20,
Wow.
which was daft because a lot of the players. I wasn't daft. It was good fun. All my mates were there playing with me and playing for me, and a lot of the older boys were really really good, and they understood that I was passionate, and I wasn't just doing the same drills every week. I was bringing something new to the table, something that a lot of unfortunately these junior kids coming through nowadays are experiencing, the same repetition. I was trying to improve myself and improve the guys around me. So it was just the passion, and I ended up down in Gosport.
All right, Christ.
I was coaching down there, and then ended up in Basingstoke, and I had a couple of teams in Basingstoke, and then I ended up in Sheffield with Greg Wood, another hockey school connection. I'm very thankful to Paul Heavey. He is, if I've ever got anything to talk about regarding hockey, I know he's got a story to tell me. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met in the game, and I owe an awful lot to Paul for getting me to where I am. But so Greg Wood brought me in. He was still playing at the time, so I was on the bench coach. Sorry, my phone just come up with 10% battery. As bench coach, and I was there for just over half a year. I'd known Ali, the owner, since I was younger, so it was a good transition, and I had a great time with the boys. I learned an awful lot from Woody. So, and from there, one day I got a phone call from Stewie. I had been out in Sweden for the past 5 years, hockey schools, Sweden, Norway and Finland, doing hockey schools, working with some SHL guys, NHL guys at the time, some Swedish elite juniors, some Finnish elite juniors, all the way down to some of the younger kids as well. So I had been documenting that, and Stewie had obviously known what I was up to, and he gave me a call and asked me to come and join as skills coach, and I was over the moon. I was thrilled. And initially, it was meant to be a sort of one day a week thing. I was going to stay in Basingstoke and still take a team down in Basingstoke, and I come up for pre-season, and I stayed for the whole pre-season, and I managed to give Bucksy and Mike the magic smile, and they decided they would keep me on, and that was with the help of the DRP. They obviously helped them finance my role there for the year, alongside the club. So it was great to just dip my feet in initially, and then all of a sudden I was full time. So I was very thankful to this club and to DRP for giving me that opportunity, and obviously for Stewie, putting that faith into a young Scottish guy. There's not an awful lot of opportunities out there for anybody. So for a guy with Stewie's resume, and we had a good relationship for a long time before I came on board. So for him to keep an eye on me and allow me the opportunity to come in and give it a try at the professional game was I owe a lot to Stewie, and I'm really thankful that relationship paid off.
Yeah, it's funny because when you said you're talking about your roots, living the same street as your home rink, and you called yourself a rink rat. I'm really, something just popped in my head. I think when we signed Danny as a player way back when, I think Paul Thompson described him as a rink rat, like a proper, or it might have been Cloutier as a quote from when Danny signed him. And I think Cloutier said, "Oh, he's a rink rat, like he's a pain. You've absolutely got to sign this guy." So maybe he just saw that little bit of a rink rat element in yourself there. But you mentioned Sweden real quick as well, because you've pulled me up so many times on my Swedish pronunciation. I'm going to ask you about the Swedish forward Talberg in a little bit. But how did that Sweden connection come about quickly?
Again, best of British, the hockey school.
Okay.
They very often would bring in, top coaches from all over Europe. Actually, the first camp that I did, they had Mikael Tissell, who at the time was the Swedish under-20 coach. I get another guy, Dan Hubert, massive hockey resumes. So the kids are very lucky to get that influence in their lives. But Ted Soikinen came across and did a camp with us, and he just said to me, "I've got a camp that I'm having in Norway. Do you want to come and work at it?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." So I flew into Norway, but Ted actually lived in Stromstad in Sweden, which is right on the border. Mm-hmm. Still, it's about an hour and 45 minutes from Oslo. So he picked me up at one of the airports outside Oslo and went down. I stayed in his house. I had already met his daughter. So I met the rest of his family, and they such a nice family. They really looked after me that week. We drove through to Oslo every day. The first couple of days we had some of the younger pros. Victor Granholm, the Norwegian national team player now, is just signed in Graz. Just to name one. So that was interesting because he was 17 years old at the time, and I thought to myself, he's a big, strong boy. He had some flaws in his game at that time. He was, he could have been a wee bit lazy, I thought, but like seeing him now, like flourish into this tremendous hockey player, like it's amazing. And whether or not I had a tiny wee impact on that, I'll never know. But I do still keep in contact with some of the boys. It was my first time coaching abroad, and from there, I had another guy come across, Victor Malbec, who is my Swedish best friend. He will laugh when he hears that one. He was goalie coach in Mariestad for the Mariestad boys, and he said, "What about this hockey school?" It's Furuddal's Hockey Scholar, and Furuddal was a tiny town of 500 people, but it was home to the Swedish national team, Tre Kronor, for probably 20 years. It's a purpose-built. They've got their own. They call it the Hockey Borg, which translates to Hockey Castle. It's like a little mini hotel. The rink was six massive changing rooms, sauna, gym, everything that the national team needed. There was ski slopes that you could run up. There was an old quarry that you could run down, sand dunes. The hockey school had its own speedboat. So obviously I fell in love with the place. And I went back every year for 5 years. So I had a great time doing that, and I ended up in the north of Sweden in a small tiny place called Övertorneå, and that's where I met Linus Umark.
Oh wow.
Ex-NHL guy. It was such a small place. His cousin was the guy who ran the hockey school.
Okay.
So obviously they were all related. There was only 200 people or something up there. But that was a great experience. Like experience in the midnight sun when that saw us for the first time. Like I was out on the River Tornio, which is the river that runs between Sweden and Finland, out on that at midnight, whilst the Sami people, which are sort of the natives to northern Scandinavia, were salmon fishing. It was incredible. You know, you go and you fall in love with a place, and that's pretty much how it went. But I thought to myself the first time I went, I really wanted to make an effort at learning the language. So I would have Victor write me down some things for the practices, and like it might sound really, really, you know, cheesy or funny, but it really did help so much. And I don't think my Swedish is quite as good as what it was back then when I was able to talk it quite a bit. But now it's not so good now. But at the time, you know, I was able to conversate quite fluently, and my understanding of the language was pretty good. So I'm looking forward to having Kim come across and talk to him about a funny story with Laken in the first year he signed. He found out that I spoke Swedish, and he says to me, Keeno, I want to talk to you in Swedish. That's my impression. And I said, okay, yeah, no problem. So every day we'd come in and I would say hello and everything in Swedish, and we'd talk away, and it go about a month and a half in, and he just says, Keeno, I am too tired for you today. And it's just the dry Finnish humour that you had was quite funny. But Kivalati spoke Swedish, so that was good. But my first year with Flodquist and Brynäsvin. So I'm excited to have another a proper Swedish speaker coming in, and I can start to practice again and try and get myself back up to the level that I once was.
Yeah, for sure. In the build up to the podcast, because we were talking to Craig, the media manager, and you know, we were saying, hey, look, we're gonna speak to Keeno, and we'll talk about this more a little bit later. But speaking of being excited, it was like, we're really excited if we can announce a signing on the podcast, and you know, having a younger guy as well, it kind of fits that you're going to announce this in a little bit. We're not going to give it away just yet, but before we do kind of move on to sort of like more of your coaching career in terms of seniors, in terms of men, the one thing that you've omitted from that was your involvement with the GB under-20s. And that's not just been a little kind of flash in the pan too. You've been there a few years. You've got a silver medal. You've got a bronze medal.
Well, I only took it up to 2018, Ed, so I still had a little bit more time.
We might have to put it in two parts at some point. But no, come on, just quickly talk to us about GB, because firstly, the experience, but secondly, because obviously coaching the future of British hockey is a big deal for you, clearly. So I guess it'd be interesting to get what your take is on kind of where the future of GB are now compared to maybe like 10 years ago. Because now we're seeing guys like Tetlow, Betteridge, you know, we've had some slightly the other older guys go over and, you know, ply their trade in Europe. Obviously you've got Kirky, who's going to be playing in Tucson this year in the American League by the look of it. So tell us about your experience, and just it'd be interesting to get your take as well on kind of what the state of the future of the game in this country is right now.
Lithuania just was pretty much two months before COVID, so I was very lucky that we actually got away.
Yeah.
But it was an unreal experience. The team actually flew out on New Year's Day.
Wow.
But I had explained to the team that we're actually playing Cardiff on New Year's Day, so I will actually be flying out a day later. And they were happy with that. Martin is always understanding of my role in Coventry and understands how how difficult it is for me to step away from my role, for 2 weeks to work with the national team. So they do work really well with me in terms of some of the scheduling conflicts and things like that, just minor things. But so the team flew out on New Year's Day, and I don't know if you remember New Year's Day. We actually went down to Cardiff and gave them a bit of a sore one that night. So I'm really glad that I never missed that. And actually, Stu took me to the airport on the second. Nice. So I flew out. I landed at like 3 a.m, and I was on the ice at 8. Very
wow.
When we played that night, we had Logan Nielsen was on that team. Ollie Lord, if Blaze fans will remember Ollie Lord. We had a lot of good talent on that team. So it was a really fun experience. The Japanese team were really, really good. Their special teams were tremendous, very fast, very disciplined. And I think it caught a lot of our guys off guard to the level that they were able to play at. But they've managed to stay up in the division above us. I think I can't remember, but I think they might have had a chance at going up into 1A at 20s level. I think they've just constantly improved. But when we look at that, the players were together for a month before, and that's not an excuse. But they're getting preparation time, and that's 10 times more than what we're getting. It does make it difficult to compete. But no, we had a good tournament. It was nice, really nice to get a silver medal. Like Katie and Katie's mum came across, and we're there to celebrate getting the silver with us. So it was a really nice experience to have them there. But it was fantastic facility. Really, really well built. It, 2 ice pads, one arena. Downstairs there was coaches' offices, so we had our own coaches' office for the week. But there was also like a dryland shooting area, which allowed us to have a couple of shooting tournaments, which obviously I won. So that was a great experience. The hotel was across the road from the rink, and a brand new tennis facility. That was a really nice place to be. Obviously COVID happened, so the tournament was cancelled, and then we went to Brasov in December, which wasn't too great an experience from the actual experience side of it. The hockey, I think we could have done a little bit better, but when we look at all the aspects of it, a lot of our team had never played in the World Championships before. There was a lot of players that we hadn't seen since July had came in from abroad. That put into that, add into that the fact that we weren't allowed to leave the hotel, and it wasn't a luxury hotel where the boys had their own room where they could set up a PlayStation and spend time as a team. They were literally, all they had was their own rooms. So there was no like allotted area that the boys could hang out. There was no area that the boys could stretch. There was no area that the boys could work out. So we literally went from the rink to the hotel, back to the rink, back to the hotel. But one of the, not the highlight, but really funny story. We actually pre-tournament camp. We had to go to a place called St George, which was about 45 minutes away from Brasov. We had no idea what we were going into. We looked online, and there was pictures, and it was a football stadium. So do you remember there's a rink on the side of it, something like that. So we're driving there. We pull up, we see the football stadium. It's a half decent football stadium. And we just look to the right, and there's this, bubble, big white bubble. So we pull into the car park, and that's the rink. So we unload the bus. Boys are trying to figure out how to get in the rink. There's a sheep farmer who must have been about 90 years old. A whole load of sheep. You've got all these 19, 18-year-old boys just thinking it's hilarious, but we couldn't get anything. Like, we couldn't figure out, well, the players couldn't figure out that it was an airlock system.
Oh, okay.
It was a blow-up tent. So you had to open one door, walk in, close that door, open the next door to then enter the rink. So that was crazy in itself. We actually played a pre-tournament game against Lithuania in there. But the way that the bench was, it was right up against the bubble. So you couldn't stand on the bench. So I just literally, myself and Martin and Danny Miles were just hanging over the bench because there was nowhere else for us to go. Like, there was actually nowhere else to go.
Nice.
It was something different, but the ice was superb. I've got to give it that. The ice was superb. But in terms of the tournament, how that went, we started off really well. We were building up to playing Italy for what was supposed to be the gold medal game. Some individual errors against Korea cost us that chance, and then we never recovered, and we went out and get beat against Romania, who were the worst team there. So that was a bit of salt in the wounds. But I wouldn't say we bounced back, but we played a really strong game against the Italians on the final day, which was a better indication of what we were as a group and as a team. So, like, I'm not making any excuses. There was a lot of different factors that probably would have hindered us slightly, but it was a good experience. And the one thing we did do is we took a younger team, so we actually only lost 3 or 4 to actually moving up out of the age group. So we gave a lot of young guys the opportunity to experience the World Championships and how the IIHF, how strict it is with everything. So we gave that opportunity and built for, moving forward. So looking at the team this year, we've already had 2 identification camps. And then just before the season starts, we have our first sort of pre-tournament camp with what we will then decide a sort of long list out of. So we're back up. We're going to Kaunas in Lithuania this time in December. So unfortunately, I'll have to depart the Sky Dome for a couple of weeks again, just before Christmas. But I'm sure Danny will be he'll be fine without me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you missed. I mean, we were just talking before we hit record, and I think even though we see you a couple of times a week, I think maybe we took for granted, or maybe didn't even understand the levels of preparation. And you've got spreadsheets on top of spreadsheets on top of software on top of other things that are just rolling around in the noggin. It's crazy, and I think people will take that maybe not for granted, but maybe just not quite twigged at the amount that goes into your role. So I guess maybe this brings us to the point where Stu can talk you into talking about some of that senior coaching that you've been doing.
Yeah, and I guess where we'll pick up perhaps is around sort of like your activities now. Like the summertime is obviously that sort of a little bit of that scouting and the recruitment. How does that work for you? What's sort of your role within this whole sort of sphere of building the Coventry Blaze for the next season?
I do whatever I can to help, and if that means we might come across a player at 11 o'clock at night, we might have to make a quick decision. So we might have to jump on the internet and have a look, see what information we can gather, see what video we can gather, and have a look. A lot of the time, agents will send lists of available players, so you basically sift through the list and see what you actually need and what's available. It's a long process, watching video, trying to figure out what that person, what that player could bring to the team, and does that fit into the dynamics of what that we're trying to create. That's obviously all guided from Stewie. So he will ask me my opinion on players, and I try and give him as an in-depth opinion as I can. Certainly when it's someone that we're interested in, we'll try and give him as much information as possible on my thoughts, and then we'll normally chat about like where this particular player could be in the lineup and how it would affect the dynamics of the group and what it can do for us, as a team. So a lot of it we will do some individual stuff, looking at things like Stewie's very, very well connected in terms of gathering references. Specifically in North America, you can, there's, I don't even know how many people you can just, quickly message, and you'll have a phone number, he'll have whatever he needs just to get a reference. So like for me, Stu will often ask me about my Swedish connections, my Scandinavian connections, so I'll try and do what I can. I've got a good group of friends over in Sweden that have played at a variety of different levels, so they can generally point me in the right direction, and help me gather up as much information so that I can present it to Stewie for him to make the overall decision.
And that you mentioned about the sort of like the dynamic of the team and sort of how you're trying to pitch it. How much of that sort of dynamic that you're looking for is based on improvements that you want to do yourself, like based on how the Blaze were, and how much of it is looking at sort of other teams and what they've done or what they're doing? Like, how does it sort of balance between the two? Where does that focus lie?
I think the focus more lies within ourselves, what we want to create. Obviously, we have an eye on what the other teams in the league are doing, but we can't control what they're doing. We can only control what we're doing, and that's the mindset that we have. Is we want to try and create the best possible team with the best possible culture that we can. So there is a little eye on what's happening in the rest of the league. We'll certainly discuss, players that have went to teams and whatever, but the main focus is on what we want.
And what would you say that you learned from last year's group that you're trying to either retain in this year's group, or you're trying to build on and maybe sort of improve upon?
I think that last season in a whole, we did put ourselves in a really good position. We unfortunately just fell away just at the wrong time. But we very easily could have finished fourth, very easily, but the results never went our way. But in terms of trying to improve on last year, I think we're definitely trying to improve on some of the scoring aspects. A little bit more speed, like looking at trying to get, I wouldn't say more high-end talent, because we did have some very high talented hockey players last year, but looking for that outright number one guy that we can rely on night in, night out, like a Chucky Corcoran, something like that, but obviously with CJ moving to the American League, trying to find a goalie that's going to be able to do the job that we need him to do is a difficult task. But we're trying our best to improve in all situations. We're trying to be faster, we're trying to be bigger, we're trying to be stronger, we're trying to have more goal scoring. So it's a case of just, it's an overall improvement.
And that that you said about CJ, that's probably the bit that where you sort of like the attention focuses the most, because the starting netminder is not coming back, and who's the next one going to be. When you say like what the role that you're looking for, that's not necessarily the size or the potentially even the sort of the agility as such. It's more about how many games and the role that they're playing within the club. How do you look for the sort of starting netminder there?
I think obviously different coaches have different thought processes, but most of the time we all want a guy that can stop the puck. We like goalies that are prepared to battle. We've had technical goalies in the past who will make the first save, but there's no scramble, there's no second effort. Whereas what we had with CJ was a guy that was prepared to battle every single night to save every single puck. And when he didn't save every single puck, he wasn't happy with himself. So we want a goalie that's got heart. We want a goalie that's going to do anything they can to keep the puck out of the net for the boys in front of them. And that, and to me, goes twofold, goes to both ways. Sorry, because when the players in front of them know that guy is doing everything they can, and they're going to do everything they can to help him and support him. So yeah, I think for us, we're looking for a goalie that can really battle every single night. Just a killer mentality.
And I'll have one more question and before just hand back to Ed, but this one's more about the defenseman who sit in front of that goalie. At this current point in time, there's three that have been announced. There's Halbert, Johnston, and Clements. So what are we looking for in the other three defensemen to kind of complement that group?
We're looking for guys that are defensively sound, but at the same time, we're not looking for an old style D man that's not not going to join the play, that's going to sit back. We're looking for good skating defensemen. That's essentially what we're trying to create. We like everybody in our team to be able to skate, and that hasn't always been the case in the past, because it's a difficult thing to do. Is to create that, but no, we're always looking for players that can move the puck well, move their feet well, but not necessarily. We're not looking for guys that especially that are, can score us 25 points off the rush. We're looking for still responsible guys that have a good gap, are switched on. They know when to jump, they know when not to jump, they know when to pinch, and they're good in front of their own net. They can pick up sticks, they can read the plays, they can quick to support. So that's essentially what we're looking for.
So I guess I get the forwards, and we're getting a little bit closer to signing announcement time, I think. But before we do talk about the latest addition to the piece of the puzzle, where do you think we're at with the forward group right now, Keeno? Because that's as opposed to the D where we've got half of it left, the forward group's nearly done. There's quite a bit of turnover from last year. What are your thoughts on that group that we've got so far?
I like it. I really do like it. And the ones that haven't been announced yet, I really like as well. We had a fun afternoon talking about different things today, and it gets you excited, gets you pumped up for the season. I like where we're at. I like how Stu's recruited up front. I really do. I like I don't know how to put it into words. The different playing styles that we have all complement well, shall I say?
Fair enough.
It's a good picture. It's a good picture on our board at the moment. I like it.
Nice. You've got options by the sound of it. You've got guys that can kind of jump in, because you never have plan A, right? Your plan A is here's what I'm thinking for one line, here's what I'm thinking two, here's what I'm thinking three, but it always kind of jumbles up as the season goes on. So from what you said in that wry smile, you've got some options. I
think so. I think we do. I think we've got multiple combinations that we can put together that'll work. Certainly the combinations that we've got up on the board right now, I really like. I really like where the thinking is at. And there's a couple of bits of the puzzle still left to put together, but I think if we can get the players that we're looking at and that we're talking to, I think we'll be really happy, and the Blaze fans will be really happy as well.
Well, when you're excited, it makes me excited. I'm feeding off you. So should we use this point in the podcast to announce another addition to the forward group. And Dale, would you like that honor?
I think you're probably going to sell. You're going to probably introduce them a lot better than I can, Ed. I'll let you introduce them, and then I'll take over from there.
Okay. So the Coventry Blaze are really pleased to announce we've signed centreman Peyton Franti from the NCAA D3. He's a big right-handed centreman. And from what I've heard and what we've seen on tape, he can skate well. He shoots the puck well. He looks like he's got a great head for the game, and I'm really excited to see him play. Although it's a different position, I felt like Halbert last year was a bit of a diamond in the rough. Like he had a great U Sports career. He'd had a couple of injuries that meant he didn't get his pro career off the ground when he wanted to. I think he had like 2 or 3 games in Laval in the American League. But he was a guy that I think you probably could have overlooked a little from not having that pro experience. Whereas if you look at what Franti's been able to do in Division 3, he's absolutely dominated. He came in as a freshman, was able to put up somewhere in and around a point a game, and since that has just flourished. And if there's a point of comparison, Jack Billings, although different players, Billings is slightly smaller in stature, lit D3 up as well, and he subsequently transitioned into D1 with Niagara. But D3 is not a league that you should sleep on. I think people can kind of get a little bit hung up on CVs, but he was one of the best players at that level, and will be able to transition that. We think anyway, Dale. I think into the pro game, and I think you've got something prepared to show us a little bit of why.
I do. Like, I think the first thing that's noticeable with Peyton is his size and his skating ability. A right-handed centre that you don't often come across, and that's something that was a target of ours this year, was to have the ability to have a strong right-handed guy through the middle. So it certainly puts a little bit of a spanner in the works for other teams on how they prepare to play against us. So we're really happy. He plays a really good 200-foot game. I think a guy that maybe just got lost a wee bit in the shuffle, coming out of D3, probably should have made an appearance in the Coast. But however, we're really happy and really lucky to have gotten Peyton. So I do have a little bit to show you. So this is Instat, which is a piece of software that we use on a day-to-day basis. Which, if you're a fan of Sky Sports football, you might quite like this. So let's have a watch here. So as we can see, that's Franti coming off the half wall there, just finding that little bit of soft ice, coming inside the dots, forehand to the middle, putting that puck away. Another clip here, you'll see Peyton's in the draw. It's on his offside. Unfortunate to lose out on that 50-50, but straight into support. Great scanning, able to find out an open pass. Scanning the area, looking where everybody's skates are. Finds a little bit of soft ice, patient, was able to put that in the back of the net. Next clip here, you'll see Peyton come off the ice, come off the bench, good forecheck, good stick in the lane. Finds again, good area of the ice to be supporting. Creates a little bit of separation between him and his check. Finds that soft ice, is able to get a shot away, but doesn't leave the hard area of the ice, and is able to put that puck away.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I think the first thing that we said selfishly when seeing that was, now we have to try and find a way to get that on the webcast. So I'm semi-joking with that. But we're really, really excited to have Franti with us. Really looking forward to having him here in August. I think you've wet the whistle there for him coming over. So just finally, and before we wrap this up here, Keeno, what does that mean for the rest of the forwards group? Is that us about done? Have we got a couple of other pieces that we want to bring in?
We do. We do have some some excellent pieces of the puzzle to show the fans. Just as I mentioned earlier, we're talking to a couple of players that we're really excited about at the moment as well. So unfortunately, we can't get everybody that we want, and that's part of the recruitment phase. Is that we've got to be patient, and but we'll keep carrying on until we've got this roster full. We're very nearly there, very nearly there. And it's been a good bit of hard work, but certainly I've enjoyed it from my side, and like I know it's a stressful time for the whole club, but when you get the opportunity to put together, I'm not going to say a figment of your imagination, but a picture that you've got in your head, and I think that's what Stewie's got there. And I think we're very close to putting that all together. So I'm really excited about the direction that we're moving in. And I'm really excited to see how that all will translate into the new season. But I am looking forward to getting back on the ice with the boys that we've got returning. It'd be great to see those boys again. We do see some guys pop in and out, which is always good. And we do keep in contact with a lot of players as well. So it's an exciting time. I think the Elite League posted today it's 50 days today. Wow. Until the official season starts. We are literally about near enough a month, 4 weeks until we get going in our preparation. So there's not long to go, and it's going to be exciting. That 4 weeks is going to go in so quick.
I was just about to say. I think I always feel like this at the end of the season. I think I always feel a bit jaded, and I'm always kind of like, it's a bit of a slog, on top of the day job and whatnot, and unless we've won every game and it's all sunshine and rainbows, I kind of sometimes feel a little bit jaded. But that goes after about 3 days, and I just itch to get back to the rink. I itch to get back behind the mic, talk to you, talk to Stewie, talk to Stu. These next few weeks I'm hoping are just going to fly by, because I can't wait to get back behind the mic at the Sky Dome. But Dale, I have really appreciated you putting your time aside for this. I really appreciate you telling us about Franti. We're really excited about him, and for showing us a little bit of instat there. That was cool for me to nerd out over, so I appreciate that. Thank you, buddy.
I don't think I'm quite as good as Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher at presenting it. But it's a nice insight for the fans to see some of the software that we use as part of our coaching staff that inevitably helps our players and helps us try to win some hockey games.
Yeah, and I know that's been a real big thing that both yourself and Danny have driven. In your time with the Blazers, that preparation. You've got the big screens up in the dressing room. You've got that direct feed in there, so you can show guys clips on the fly. So much goes in. We just couldn't summarize it in one episode of a podcast. Maybe for another time. But I think we're at a good place to finish for the evening. Dale, Stu, thank you both so much for your time as always. Everybody watching at home, wherever you're listening to the Blaze TV podcast, thank you so much for joining us. And it's really starting to feel like we'll see you soon. Bye for now. Stay safe. Take care.